In the beginning of the story, we see a 19-year-old girl who has arrived in an unfamiliar place. She wonders, where am I? However, when she opens her eyes, she realizes that she is no longer in her own body. She describes having blonde hair, small, delicate hands like a doll, and being surrounded by a scenery that seems historical. If she were still alive, she would expect to be in a hospital, but she is clearly not. She's confused about her location and is curious about a handsome guy nearby. The girl realizes she might have died after being hit by a truck while heading to retake a college entrance exam. She finds herself in a new body, feeling both surprised and resigned. Since she's an orphan, she believes her passing won't cause as much grief compared to if she had a family. The girl begins to wonder if her friends are sad about her death. She considers that her current situation might mean she died and woke up in a fantasy novel. Given her life was already challenging, she sees this as an opportunity for improvement. She contemplates her role in the story, questioning whether she's the main character or a side character, and ponders the idea of living a peaceful life as a side character. The girl is surprised when the handsome guy wakes up. She thinks he looked gorgeous while sleeping, but is even more stunning when he's awake. She's in awe of his perfect appearance, comparing him to a statue, and becomes nervous about what to say. She's nervous and makes a strange noise in response to seeing him, wondering if she was too nervous. The boy opens the window, and just then the maid knocks. He invites her in, and upon hearing his voice, the girl is impressed by how nice it sounds. The maid asks if he'd like to wash up and get ready for the day, and he agrees. The girl wonders if she's being too sensitive or if the boy is acting strangely cold towards her. The girl considers asking the boy about their location, but decides not to. Instead, she tries to gather information from the maid named Marie. She asks Marie her name, and in a somewhat confused manner, the maid responds. Delis then asks what her own name is, and the maid nervously provides her name as Delisilla Bannister. The girl is shocked to realize she has taken over the body of Delisilla Bannister, the villainess from a recent romance novel she read. She's even more surprised to find a man named Rowan, her favorite character from the same novel, sleeping next to her. In the story, Delis mistreated Rowan, and the girl is horrified to be in her shoes. She can't believe she has become the character she disliked. The reason Delis harassed Rowan was because he was the Duke's illegitimate child, born from a brief encounter between a maid and the previous Duke. This fact led to severe mistreatment from Rowan's family. His mother, Shejimangajo, was his sole support, but she grew weak after giving birth. Tragically, she passed away when Rowan was just 3 years old. On the day of her funeral, Duke Bannister cruelly told Rowan that he was his only shame, a memory that would haunt him. However, Rowan's status in the family changed when it was discovered that the Duchess was unable to bear children. The Duke, who had no heir, took a keen interest in Rowan due to his extraordinary potential power, earning him the title of the Blue Wolf Incarnate. To secure the family's future, the Duke arranged for Rowan to marry Delisla Caesar, the daughter of Marcus Caesar. But Rowan's misfortunes continued. Delis, who lost her mother at a young age and was excessively spoiled by the Marquis, treated Rowan rudely and was cruel to those below her. Her personality was truly the worst. After enduring prolonged bullying, Delis and Rowan eventually divorced. Her actions became even more severe, leading to her banishment from the Empire when she was caught attempting to poison the main character. Delis reflects on Delisilla Caesar's fate, thinking she deserved her ending and that she would have treated Rowan better. She questions why the character was interested in the slimy crown prince. Marie notices Delis's formal way of speaking and asks why she's doing so. Delis realizes her behavior. Delis is in a dilemma because she mainly focused on the parts with Rowan in the novel and doesn't know much about Delis's character. Additionally, the story begins after Delis and Rowan's divorce, so there aren't many scenes with her in it, leaving her uncertain about how to act or think. Marie expresses concern, asking Delis if she's feeling all right. Delis, in her thoughts, decides to take the easy way out and stages a memory loss act, thinking it might hurt her a little but is her only option. She then asks the maid, "Who am I, and where am I?" Marie becomes concerned when she discovers that Delis has lost her memory. Delis pretends to have complete amnesia. Marie rushes to bring a doctor, and when the doctor arrives, he questions Delis about her memory loss. Delis is relieved that her plan to feign memory loss is working. Delis recounts the doctor's visit. He questioned her about various things like writing with a pen and identifying objects. The doctor informs Delis that she seems to remember factual information related to the present but has forgotten everything else from her history, with uncertain prospects of the memories returning. Marie is shocked and asks if there's a possibility that Delis's memories may never come back. Delis pretends to wonder if her memory loss act worked. The doctor mentions they'll have to wait to see if her memories return. Marie suggests informing the Duke about the situation. Delis assumes the doctor is heading to Rowan after mentioning notifying the Duke. Marie kindly reminds Delis about her usual morning routine, offering to prepare a bath for her. Delis gratefully agrees. Marie is surprised by Delis's formality, suggesting she doesn't need to continue speaking so formally. Delis realizes she's unintentionally carrying over her politeness from her past life and decides to try acting more like Delis. The maids help Delis get ready. Delis wondered if taking a bath and getting ready had always been that tiring. Then one of the maids timidly apologized for accidentally scratching Delis's arm, to which Delis kindly responded that it was quite all right. Delis observed the maid's fearful demeanor and pondered how intimidating Delis must have been to them. Marie arrives at the door and informs Delis of her presence. Delis invites her inside, correcting her phrasing. Marie discreetly shares that she has something to tell Delis, prompting Delis's curiosity. Delis then instructs the other maids to leave, allowing Marie to finish up. The maids acknowledge and exit. After the other maids leave, Delis asks Marie about the message. Marie informs her that Roan wants to keep Delis's lost memories a secret to prevent rumors and has instructed the staff to stay quiet about it. Delis agrees with the decision and inquires if there's more to the message, but Marie remains silent, confirming that there isn't. Frustrated, Delis contemplates Roan's message, feeling that he's all business with no concern for her. However, she also understands that given how Delis treated Roan in the novel, his reaction is reasonable, though she still wishes he showed more empathy. Marie suggests they go down for breakfast, and Delis, in a sad tone, agrees. Delis is awed by the grandeur of the palace, however. Her attention is drawn to the dining table where she sees Roan. She is struck by Roan's extraordinary appearance, and she reflects on how meticulously he seems crafted, almost unreal. She's so nervous that she doubts if she can even eat. Despite her apprehension, Delis acknowledges the need to rebuild her relationship with him. She realizes she can't continue living in this manner, having once admired him as her favorite character, only to divorce him. At the dining table, Delis is determined to start a conversation with Roan, but feels the awkwardness of the situation. She takes a chance and comments, "What beautiful weather we have today." This unexpected remark surprises the servants, maids, and even Roan, who briefly gazes at Delis without displaying any emotion. Delis finds some satisfaction in this but notes that Roan remains silent. Delis, using a sweet tone, questions Roan about the food. However, this simple inquiry provokes an unusual response from the servants and maids in the room. Confused by their reactions, Delis questions if her comment sounded strange. Roan eventually clears his throat and answers positively. Realizing her blunder, Delis reflects on the need to maintain her facade and not reveal her knowledge of Roan's identity. Delis works up the courage to ask Roan if she can call him by his first name. Roan agrees, saying, "Very well." Delis is delighted that he responded to her, but becomes surprised when he stands up from his seat, making her wonder if he's leaving after just a single exchange. Delis inquires about the location of the Duke's office from Marie after Roan departs. Marie provides directions and asks why Delis needs to know. Delis assures her it's not important. In her inner thoughts, Delis expresses frustration at Roan's lack of concern about her memory loss. She believes he should have at least asked if she was all right. Delis resolves to make Roan inquire about her well-being before the day ends. Upon opening the door to Roan's office, Delis is surprised to find a young man with brown hair and eyes, who she recognizes as David, Roan's loyal aide. She remembers that David had a strong dislike for her in the novel. Delis is taken aback by David's apparent disdain and thinks that he doesn't need to express his hatred so openly. David questions Delis about her presence, and she expresses her intent to see Roan. Delis is aware of David's disdain for her due to her past actions in the novel. With a somewhat condescending attitude, David checks with Roan, who grants Delis permission to enter, causing some embarrassment to David. Delis opens the conversation by greeting Roan with a simple "Hello, Roan." However, Roan responds with a cold demeanor, asking about her purpose for being there. Delis feels frustrated by his coldness. Nonetheless, she gathers the courage to inquire about her memory loss. Roan acknowledges being aware of her situation and mentions sending a message through a maid earlier. Delis, in a sympathetic tone, conveyed her desire to have a conversation with Roan despite their past differences. Roan, surprised by her intention, mentioned that she may have forgotten about his illegitimate status due to her memory loss and warned her to give up any schemes she might have. Delis, feeling apologetic, expressed her regret to Roan, acknowledging that she couldn't recall their past interactions. Roan remained silent, surprised by her unexpected apology. Delis then decided to leave. Delis frustratedly reflects on the situation, realizing that her attempt to have Roan express concern for her well-being backfired. Despite her irritation, she still holds onto a glimmer of hope, believing that things will eventually improve. Delis, lost in her thoughts, reflects on what comes next in the story. She recalls that in the book, a love interest was crowned Prince Cameron Devon Astrid of the Astrid Empire, while the main character was Princess Grace de Zulair of the Kingdom of Zulair. They fell in love while working together for their kingdom's safety. However, Roan was in love with Grace and unaware of their relationship. Suddenly, she grows frustrated, realizing that this is all she can recall. Then Dilys recalls more details from the story. Somewhere in the middle of the book was a war of conquest. The Astrid Empire didn't intend to start a war, but the Carlin Kingdom, along with barbarians, attempted to bring down the empire, which led to the war. Ultimately, Carlin lost the war. During this long and brutal battle, there was betrayal at the camp, and Roan was injured. The injury left him with a limp. Rather than comforting him, his wife, Dilys, ridiculed him for his condition. This was one of the reasons why Roan asked Dilys to dissolve their marriage. Dilys is determined to change the course of events in the story. She is upset at the idea of Roan getting injured or divorced. Dilys realizes that the war in the story started in the summer, and she's in spring right now. She wants to prevent it. However, Dilys knows she can't simply tell Roan about the alliance between the Carlin Kingdom and the barbarians or the spy in his camp because he'd question how she knows this. She understands that claiming she read about it in a book won't be a believable explanation. She has a challenge ahead to prevent these events. Dilys gets a knock at the door, and it's Marie. Marie wants to inform Dilys about her schedule for tomorrow. Dilys is puzzled by her schedule. When Marie mentions the birthday banquet of Princess Sophia, Dilys starts to recall the event. Her preparations for the banquet have been occupying her for the past few days, but due to her memory loss, she had forgotten about it. Dilys is now reminded of the upcoming princess's birthday banquet. Dilys asks if the crown prince will be at the birthday banquet, and Marie confirms it. Dilys is happy with this information. Then Marie mentions that the princess from the kingdom of Gélier will be attending for the first time. Dilys is excited because she knows this is when the fateful first meeting between the characters takes place, and she doesn't want to miss this opportunity. Dilys eagerly asks if Roan will be accompanying her tomorrow. Marie confirms that since it's a celebration for a member of the imperial family, the Duke will attend as well. Dilys, feeling possessive about Roan, thinks about the upcoming event. She reflects on the novel's storyline, noting that at this point, Roan hasn't developed feelings for Grace yet. Dilys sees this as her best chance to witness the first meeting between the two main characters and make it clear to Grace that she can't pursue Roan or lead him on. With determination, Dilys decides that she should also let the crown prince know that she's no longer interested in him. She's determined to wait and see and make her intentions clear. At the upcoming banquet, she plans to wish happiness for the two main characters more sincerely than anyone else. Dilys and Roan attend Sophia's birthday banquet together the next day. Dilys can't help but admire Roan's beauty, thinking about how handsome and lovely he is every time she sees him. However, she quickly refocuses on her goal, understanding that it's essential for them to get closer and talk more if she wants to bring up the impending war. The atmosphere between them seems heavy, and she wonders if it's because she left his study upset the day before. Dilys engages Roan in conversation, asking if he has attended many banquets. Roan responds with a simple yes. Despite Roan's reserved demeanor, Dilys continues to ask him various questions, commenting on the pleasant breeze and comfortable carriage. Roan acknowledges her comments with brief answers. Dilys finds herself annoyed by Roan's icy demeanor, but strangely, even this interaction brings her a sense of happiness. Dilys, after arriving at the palace, hesitates to step out of the carriage due to her uncomfortable shoes. She gathers the courage to ask Roan for assistance, requesting him to hold her hand as she gets down. Dilys wonders if asking to hold hands was too forward, just as she is about to step down, but suddenly her foot slips, and she is on the verge of falling. However, Roan quickly steps forward and catches her, leading to a brief moment where their eyes meet. Dilys expresses her gratitude to Roan for catching her, as she almost fell from the carriage. Roan, in his usual stoic manner, responds that he didn't do it expecting thanks. Dilys insists on thanking him, to which Roan simply suggests they go inside. Dilys takes in the grandeur of the palace, noting its immense size. She also observes the attention they're drawing from the onlookers. Her thoughts drift to the complex royal family dynamics, recalling that the emperor had two wives, the empress and the imperial concubine. Dilys recalls their children, Crown Prince Cameron and Princess Sophia from the empress, and a son and daughter from the imperial concubine, the second prince and princess. She thinks about how the empress, who used to be the imperial consort, desired her son to become the crown prince. In the end, Cameron becomes the crown prince. The herald announces the arrival of Crown Prince Cameron, Devon Astrid, and Princess Sophia Lyri Astrid. When Dilys sees Cameron, she admires his handsome appearance, thinking he would make a great love interest. However, she secretly believes that Roan in her eyes is even more attractive. Suddenly, Roan interrupts her thoughts, asking if she really likes something. Dilys is captivated by Roan's intense gaze, which stirs her emotions. Her heart races, and she's momentarily taken aback by his sudden question. However, in that moment, she decides to be honest with her feelings and admits that she does indeed like whatever Roan is referring to, responding with a smile. Roan leaves without saying anything, leaving Dilys puzzled. Suddenly, Cameron arrives and warmly addresses Rowan as Duke Bannister, surprising Dilys. Rowan respectfully greets Cameron. Dilys observes and learns the proper way to greet the Crown Prince. She attempts to greet Cameron, but is ignored as he engages in a conversation with Rowan. Annoyed and feeling somewhat ignored, Dilys reflects on the situation, expecting a more polite greeting from the prince. Rowan and Cameron are friends because Rowan supported the Emperor's faction. However, their friendship faces challenges later on due to their conflict over Grace. Sophia meets Dilys at the event and greets her politely. Dilys is pleasantly surprised and reciprocates the greeting. However, Sophia makes a teasing remark, implying that Dilys is wasting her energy on something seemingly futile. Dilys is puzzled by the comment and wonders if it's related to a specific matter. Dilys, in response to Sophia's teasing remark, questions if it relates to her previous statement about becoming empress. She reassures Sophia that she has changed her priorities and decided to focus on more useful endeavors. This declaration leaves Cameron, Rowan, and Sophia stunned. Then Dilys warmly greets Cameron, expressing how long it has been since they last met. Cameron acknowledges the sentiment. Dilys then inquires about his well-being, to which he responds positively. As she thinks about the situation, Dilys reflects on her changed feelings and acknowledges that her past behavior, constantly seeking Cameron's attention, may have made him uncomfortable, especially considering her previous role as his friend's wife. Dilys confidently fulfills her purpose, emphasizing how her well-being is attributed to her marriage to someone as remarkable as Cameron's friend, Rowan. She expresses her gratitude for having met Rowan and considers herself incredibly fortunate. Dilys wants everyone to know that she belongs solely to Rowan, and no one else can come between them. Her words start to draw attention and become a topic of discussion among the gathered attendees. Dilys, slightly embarrassed, remarks that she might have taken up too much of their time. Before she can say anything more, Rowan, in an angry manner, grabs her hand and starts leading her away. Dilys, confused by Rowan's sudden actions, exclaims, "Rowan, where are we going?" Outside of event, Dilys and Rowan engage in a conversation where Rowan questions Dilys about why she mentioned feeling lucky to have met him in front of the Crown Prince. Dilys seems confused and asks what he means. Rowan interprets her words as a sign that she loves the Crown Prince and despises him. But Dilys assures Rowan that she is not in love with the Crown Prince. Rowan is doubtful and questions her, to which Dilys asks if he truly doesn't know who she's in love with. Rowan expresses his belief that Dilys is in love with the Crown Prince, but Dilys insists that he didn't understand what she just said. Rowan, trying to make her understand, argues that her memory loss has led to a mistaken belief and warns her that she will regret it later. Dilys is puzzled by Rowan's behavior, as he usually acts like he doesn't like her. She reiterates that the person she loves is not the Crown Prince. However, in the middle of their conversation, she suddenly feels unsteady and starts to stagger. In her thoughts, she wonders what's wrong with her and why she's feeling dizzy. Rowan quickly catches her before she can fall. Dilys informs Rowan that she's feeling a bit lightheaded, to which he asks if she was dizzy. Dilys tries to assure him that she's okay now and attributes the momentary dizziness to not eating much due to her tight dress. Rowan, frustrated, questions how someone can feel faint after missing a few meals. Dilys, equally irritated, explains that her constitution is weaker than his, so not being able to eat affects her more. Rowan suggests returning to the mansion right away, which surprises Dilys since they haven't been at the banquet for long. Rowan insists on leaving to prevent her from collapsing due to weakness. Rowan's actions and words leave Dilys wondering if he's genuinely concerned about her. He urges her to go. As Rowan moves ahead, Dilys hurries to catch up, and when he gets into the carriage, he extends his hand toward her and asks her to hold it. Dilys is briefly surprised by this gesture, as it's not something Rowan typically does. She thanks him and begins to wonder if he's genuinely concerned. She musters some enthusiasm and asks him if he's worried about her. However, Rowan promptly denies it. Dilys, disheartened by his response, thinks that he could have said he was worried just once. Dilys graciously acknowledges Rowan's gesture with a smile, expressing her gratitude. Rowan, however, maintains his cold exterior, insisting that he wasn't genuinely concerned. Undeterred, Dilys chooses to hold on to the belief that Rowan cares, thanking him once more for his apparent concern. Rowan's response remains stoic, dismissing Dilys' sentiment. They continue their journey towards the mansion, the atmosphere tinged with unspoken emotions. The next morning, Dilys wakes up suddenly and finds Marie in front of her. Dilys is surprised and asks Marie what happened. Marie explains that Dilys slept for an entire day. Dilys tries to recall if she dozed off in the carriage after the banquet. Marie mentions that Rowan carried Dilys inside looking very serious. Dilys is taken aback and asks if it was Rowan who carried her in, to which Marie confirms. Dilys is left pondering over Rowan's actions. Dilys thinking that nothing serious happened. She then asks about Rowan's whereabouts, and Marie informs her that Rowan went to the palace early in the morning for some business without specifying when he would return. However, he told Marie to take good care of Delis. Delis is left flustered, wondering if Rowan genuinely said that but finds happiness in the thought that he might have. Marie informs Delis that the Marquis will be visiting in the afternoon because he's concerned about her health. Delis ponders how he knew about her condition so quickly after feeling dizzy the previous day. Delis acknowledges the Marquis's visit and considers using her free time to explore the mansion. She reflects on the fact that this is her life now. Delis wanders around the mansion, realizing the stark differences in its layout and decor compared to what she's familiar with. She contemplates the sheer size of the mansion, fearing that she might get lost in it. However, she stumbles upon a peculiar door that seems to lead to the basement. She's curious about what might be down there. As she explores further, she discovers another door that feels different and has an unusual doorknob. Delis is puzzled and wonders what could be on the other side of this mysterious door. Delis contemplates whether it's all right to take a quick look inside the intriguing door. Just as she's about to open it, Marie's voice rings out, informing her that the Marquis has arrived to see her. Delis is taken aback by the timing. She decides to leave exploring the door for later and thinks she'll ask Rowan about it. Marie's voice calls out once more, urging Delis to join them. Delis responds, assuring she'll be right up. Delis's father called out to her, prompting her to notice his handsome appearance for a middle-aged man. He expressed concern for her well-being, making Delis feel a sudden surge of nervousness. She knew she needed to convincingly act like her usual self. With respect, she assured her father that she was indeed well. Internally, she hoped it sounded natural. Her father seemed surprised by her formal tone, encouraging her to call him Dad as she always did. He expressed worry about her coming to see him while still not feeling well. Delis observed her father's gesture of placing his hand on her forehead and then thought about how she should address him. He inquired if she had a fever, which made her contemplate whether she should address him as Dad as she usually did. Despite her father's concern about her health and suggesting calling a doctor, Delis decided to playfully maintain a formal tone with him for a moment. She reassured him that she was fine and that her change in demeanor was just temporary. Still slightly surprised, her father responded, assuming she was joking, and affectionately called her his darling daughter. Delis couldn't help but think that he must be the only one who found her cute in that way. The father and daughter sat down to have a conversation, and he inquired about how things were going for her lately. Delis noticed his expression and figured he was asking about her married life. When he asked if she was having a hard time, Delis couldn't help but beam with happiness and enthusiastically shared that her days with Rowan were wonderful, as he was treating her so well. The father then brought up the subject of the Empress's position that she had always aspired to. Delis dismissed it, stating that she had already given up on that dream and emphasized her love for Rowan. He chuckled at her response and mentioned receiving a letter from the Duke expressing concern for her well-being. Delis was taken aback, surprised that Rowan had taken such an initiative. However, she couldn't help but feel a surge of happiness that their relationship seemed to be improving. Delis couldn't help but think about Rowan with a blush, convinced he was concerned about her well-being. She found it amusing that he claimed not to be worried but had taken the trouble to inform her father. Inwardly giggling, Delis thought, "He's such a sly fox." When she inquired about the contents of the letter, Marie accidentally dropped a cup of hot tea, causing a minor injury to Delis. Though concerned, her father wanted to examine the injury, but Delis assured him it was just a small startle, and she was more surprised than hurt. Marie, visibly shaken, apologized profusely for the accident. Marie was deeply apologetic for her accident, but Delis didn't think it was necessary for her to prostrate herself. She asked Marie to stand up, assuring her that she was fine. However, Marie was still overwhelmed with guilt, but Delis insisted that she was really okay. Delis then asked Marie to fetch a cold, wet towel to tend to her minor burn. Seeing his daughter's changed attitude, Delis's father remarked that she had transformed into an entirely different person. He expressed his unwavering faith in her, even when others had criticized her for being rude. Delis's father expressed his understanding of her transformation, believing that her previous behavior was simply a result of not knowing how to express her love. He hoped that her brother Cain, if he were here, would be proud of the person she had become. He also acknowledged that their differing personalities had caused discord between them in the past, wondering if they might now find common ground. Delis, however, couldn't help but think that the issue was more rooted in her past behavior rather than just clashing personalities. Later in the evening, Delis's father prepared to leave, relieved to hear that she was doing well. He asked her to convey his regards to Rowan. Delis assured him she would and wished him a safe journey back home. Delis, feeling tired, contemplated heading inside. However, her attention was suddenly caught by a familiar carriage approaching. She thought to herself that if she had known she would run into Rowan, she would have dressed more presentably. Upon spotting Rowan, Delis waved her hand and called out to him, expressing her excitement. Rowan, surprised to see her outside, inquired about her presence. Delis couldn't contain her joy and ran towards Rowan. She reasoned that since they had already shared a hub before, it would probably be okay to do so again. As she was about to embrace him, Roan instinctively stepped back, surprising Dilys. She felt somewhat embarrassed, wondering if he wasn't comfortable with hugs yet. Dilys, feeling annoyed by Roan's cold behavior, responds to his question. She expresses her happiness at seeing him after a whole day of separation. Roan, surprised, questions if she, the lady of the house, just admitted to being happy to see him. Dilys teases him, emphasizing that no one else is present. Dilys then greets Roan with excitement, asking about his day. However, she starts to wonder if she may have been too enthusiastic, noticing Roan's peculiar expression. Roan, in an unexpected turn, responds positively, saying he had a good day. Dilys is taken aback, surprised to see Roan smiling. Dilys is surprised when she thinks she saw Roan smile, but he remains expressionless and suggests they go inside. Dilys can't help but question if she mistook his expression. However, she doesn't let it go and grabs Roan's hand, asking him with affection if he indeed smiled, wanting a clear answer. As they sit down for dinner, Dilys can't help but steal glances at Roan. She asks if he's enjoying the food. Dilys admires how even when he's eating without expression, he still looks beautiful. She notices his cheeks are a bit puffed, making him look cute, like a squirrel with its cheeks full. Roan inquires about Dilys's hand injury, and she explains that it was just a minor incident with some spilled tea, and that she wasn't hurt badly. He's surprised and questions why she didn't reprimand her maid. Dilys, however, tells him it wasn't a big deal, and there was nothing to forgive. Roan is impressed with her changed behavior, noting that in the past, she once dismissed a servant for spilling water on the floor, but now she's more understanding. Dilys is still shocked by the revelation of her past self's behavior and wonders how messed up Dilys's personality must have been. When she inquires about the fate of the dismissed servant, Roan explains that he wrote her a letter of recommendation, and she likely found a better job, making Dilys admire Roan's kindness. She smiles at him and calls him kind, but Roan insists it's nonsense. Dilys believes she can tell and expresses her good feelings toward him. Roan questions how she can know when she's lost her memory, to which Dilys replies that it's just a feeling and that she gets a good vibe from him. Dilys, still captivated by Roan's appearance, even when he doesn't respond, marvels at how handsome he is. She then recalls her intention to ask about the unusual door she saw in the basement. Dilys musters the courage to inquire, wondering if she's allowed to enter. Roan explains that the room houses legendary weapons, treasured and locked away for generations due to their value. Dilys recalls that House Bannister has a long history as a military family. Dilys expresses her curiosity about the locked room and asks who holds the key. Roan reveals that he has it. Dilys, trying to use her charm, attempts to persuade Roan to allow her to enter the room. However, Roan notices her expression and questions what she's doing. Disappointed, Dilys thinks to herself that her plan didn't work. Roan assures her that there are no restricted areas in the mansion, but warns that the room contains dangerous weapons. He offers to accompany her. After finishing their meal, Roan instructs Dilys to wait for him in her room, as he will come to escort her. Dilys agrees and tells him she'll be waiting. Dilys contemplates the mention of weapons stored in the locked room and her desire to ensure Roan's safety. She recalls a plot point from the novels she read, where Roan falls into a trap during an impending war and his sword breaks during the fight, leading to an injury. To prevent this from happening, she wishes to provide him with a sword that will never break. Dilys then remembers that dwarves exist in this world and are skilled at crafting weapons. Dwarves' weapons are known to be durable, even against powerful materials like adamantite, and they are resistant to auras. However, humans exploited dwarves for a long time, leading them to hide in inconspicuous places along with the fairies. Dilys knows where they live, and she envisions a scenario from the novel where the main character helps the dwarves who had been enslaved. Dilys contemplates the idea of preparing a surprise gift for Roan's birthday, imagining his reaction to receiving a sword. She envisions a scenario where he might thank her with a kiss. Suddenly, she feels a pain in her stomach and wonders if she ate too much at dinner. The tightness of her dress around her waist concerns her, and she decides to change into something more comfortable. As she's in the midst of changing, there's a knock on the door. Dilys wonders if it's Marie, but it turns out to be Roan, asking if she's ready. Flustered, she realizes she hasn't changed yet. Panicking, she tries to stop him from entering, but he's already in the room. Roan blushes upon seeing Dilys in the midst of changing, while Dilys herself blushes, thinking about the romantic scenario she had in mind. Embarrassed, Dilys hastily tells Roan to wait and shuts the door in his face. Roan doesn't react with anger, but instead reflects on how Dilys's behavior has changed ever since she lost her memory. He notices that she looks at him differently, and her actions are filled with kindness and goodwill. To him, it seems like her appearance has remained the same, but she is transformed into a completely different person on the inside. Roan remembers when he went to meet Cameron. Even then, his thoughts were entirely occupied by Dilys, and he paid little attention to what Cameron was saying. Cameron, noticing Roan's distraction, emphasizes the urgency of the situation in the north. He expresses concern about the boldness of the actions near the border and the potential threat to the Empire. Roan agrees, acknowledging that this behavior is unusual for them, and agrees that they need to take charge and investigate the situation. Cameron inquires about Delis's well-being after she left the banquet early due to feeling unwell. Roan reassures him that she was only lightheaded from not eating much because of her tight clothes. Cameron then shares his initial concern about the rumors regarding Delis's aspirations, but now realizes he was mistaken. Roan, feeling a bit uncomfortable, decides it's time to leave. Cameron, a bit surprised by Roan's abrupt departure, bids him farewell. Roan arrives at Samuel's location, drawing the attention of the people present who recognize him for his notable aura. Joshua, surprised to see Roan, inquires about his presence. Roan explains that he's there to meet wise man Samuel, but Joshua informs him that Samuel is currently away and his return time is uncertain. Roan requests to wait for Samuel, and Joshua graciously guides him to a suitable spot. Joshua graciously offers Roan some tea while he waits. Roan accepts and thanks him. Joshua then introduces himself and inquires about Roan's reason for seeking Samuel. Roan explains that he has a question regarding magic that can switch a person's soul. Joshua is surprised by the inquiry and clarifies that he's not aware of such magic. Just as the conversation continues, Samuel returns unexpectedly. Joshua informs him of Roan's presence, and Samuel addresses Roan with surprise, recognizing him as the famous Duke Bannister. Samuel reacts with surprise and disbelief when Roan asks about magic to switch a person's soul. He firmly states that such magic doesn't exist and dismisses the idea as something from fiction. Samuel insists that thinking about such matters is a waste of time, and even if it were possible, it would come with severe consequences. Roan expresses his concern to Samuel about someone he knows who has undergone a drastic change. Samuel inquires about the extent of this transformation, and Roan explains that the person has changed in terms of their speech, personality, and other aspects seemingly overnight. He mentions that this individual lost their memory and that alone doesn't explain the profound shift. Samuel deduces that Roan is talking about a woman and asks how he knew this information. Samuel, in a candid moment, candidly tells Roan that he must be seeking love advice. Roan denies this, insisting their relationship is different. However, Samuel insists that falling in love can happen unexpectedly, and often, the person experiencing it is the last to realize. He shares that there are more inexplicable things in the world than just magic. Roan is left in shocked silence. Samuel concludes by sternly instructing Roan not to return for dating advice in the future and urges him to leave. Roan is deep in thought, trying to make sense of Samuel's words. He believes it's impossible for him to be in love with Delis, given their history of misery and the likelihood of future difficulties. Nevertheless, he finds himself questioning his feelings, wondering why he doesn't dislike this new Delis.